rest in the presence, and hold space.
Namo Namah Ganganapataye Namo Namaha. Ganganapataye Namo Namaha. Ganganapataye Namo Namaha. Jai Ganesha Gananata Dayaniti Sakala Vigna Karadura Hamari. 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 Namo Namaha.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Welcome to our weekly online Satsang. Satsang being a Sanskrit word that means literally community of truth. Wherever we have two or more people come together who are on the spiritual path, there's a Satsang. We share our joys, we share our griefs, we share our journeys, our ups and downs, and we strengthen one another when we come together. So we're so glad that you're here this evening. If you're on Facebook Live, we'd really like to invite you to leave a like or a love, thumbs up or a heart or whatever emoji fits, so that we can look at the end and see that you are with us here tonight, and we'll send special hugs and blessings. If you're watching on Vimeo, you can just enter something in the chat there. Just say your name and say hi, and we'll send you special blessings. We we do these webcasts so that we have an opportunity to join together in satsang in a way that transcends geographical distance or any kind of boundaries, be they political or geological or spiritual. We can come together on the internet and join our spirits and our journeys and our stories together and strengthen and encourage one another. This is a time where humanity needs to shift in a massive way. Not just you and me, of course, we need to grow, transform, but the collective consciousness of humanity needs to shift from the insanity of conflict, competition, and war to cooperation, harmony, and peace. And that can only happen when the collective heart of humanity begins to flower, blossom, and shift. That will happen when enough of us individually have awakened within, to the divinity within, to our essential oneness with the source, with each other, and with all that exists. So that's really the work of Flowering Heart as an interfaith community. We have people who join us from many different spiritual teachers and teachings, belief systems. What we have in common is the process of spiritual awakening and transformation in oneness with the divine. So we're so glad you're here. You make a difference. As Rumi said, you're not just a drop of the ocean, you are the entire ocean in a drop. When you awaken, it sends ripples out through the entire ocean of being, of existence, and touches so many lives. So thank you for saying yes to the journey. We'd like to invite you to join us in sharing the Flowering Heart blessing. That's a transmission, direct transmission of divine presence, grace, love, light, awakened consciousness. A gift from the divine source itself that awakens in the receiver the process of transformation and awakening into oneness. So you're already basking in it. And the divine showed Suzanne and me when we were led to this blessing, and it was revealed to us about 10 years ago now, almost.
11, isn't it?
Well, we'll figure that out later.
10.
Anyway, around 10 years ago, that when a person receives this blessing just once, they are initiated to be able to share it. So if you like the energy, the presence, the space that we're experiencing together here tonight, you're already initiated. Just invite the divine to pour the blessing through you to everyone who joins us in the satsang tonight, and everyone that will view this recording in the days ahead. For many, many, many times more people will view this after it's been recorded and left posted on the internet. Don't know why. People in different time zones, different schedules in their lives, just find it easier to watch at another time. They've come to realize, as we have, that whenever you are viewing this, you experience the same energy, the same presence, the same transmission of light as if you were participating live. So we hold you, who are watching this at another time, in our intentions, and we ask the divine to flood you with the Flowering Heart blessing. Hridaya, Vikasa, Diksha. If you like Sanskrit, that means Flowering Heart blessing. What else? Any other news? Happy belated Mother's Day to all of you mothers who are, I think, on the express route of awakening and transformation. Motherhood is a path to sainthood if you fully embrace it. And that's something I can't do. I can participate, and I have been, but we bless and express gratitude to all of you mothers and mothers-to-be. Thank you so much for saying yes to the path of being a life giver and a nurturer of life on this planet.
It's good to be back. We missed you all last week. We went on a week vacation, part of it with our kids up in Tennessee for a family get-together. And it was really great. We had a really great time. It's just, we're reading Peace Pilgrim, and there's a passage in there where she speaks about, you know, if you enjoy your life and all aspects of it, there's really no need to go on vacation. And I kind of felt like that as we were preparing for it while we were on it, and when we came home, it was like, I don't know, our life is just so graced and so blessed that I don't really want to be anywhere else. And people have said, yeah, but it's nice to explore, get different perspectives, but I feel like I do that throughout the day just right here at home. So it's good to be back with you all. We missed you.
And it's good to get away with the family.
Yes.
Some of them have hectic lives.
Yes.
And like Peace Pilgrim said, when people want to go on vacation, it's because they want to get away from something that they're not enjoying. But when you're doing what you're called by the divine to do, that's vacation enough.
Yeah.
All right. I think those are the only announcements we have at this point. So we like to open it to questions and answers about the spiritual journey. Your spiritual journey, or it could be some philosophical question about reincarnation or awakening, pre-life, afterlife, intralives, anything pertaining to spirituality. We avoid other things, politics, finances. We're not here to do that, but we definitely are here to share our journeys. And when you share your questions about something you may be encountering, a challenge or a breakthrough in your journey, it nudges the divine to pour inspiration through Suzanne and me to share with the entire group, and it blesses us all. Our journeys are each unique and different, and yet they follow certain parallels, and we all face similar obstacles along the way and breakthroughs. So while you're checking inside and asking what contribution you might make tonight by asking a question concerning the spiritual journey, I'm going to, as I do each week, share some quotes from a website that we enjoy a lot called inspiringquotes.com. And tonight's going to be just slightly different, perhaps. We'll see. The subject tonight is 5 Eastern philosophers you should know. We're going to introduce them. And this article was put together by Nicole Villanueva, who's a writer, thrift store lover, and group chat meme spammer based in Ontario, Canada. I relate to all these authors so much. We share common interests. So here's what Nicole has to say about these 5 Eastern philosophers you should know. The name Confucius is a familiar one in the world of philosophy. For most people, the famous Chinese thinker conjures wisdom and morality, although his teachings date as far back as the 5th century BCE. His perspective on the importance of a harmonious relationship between the individual and society remains as relevant as ever today. But Confucius is only one of many Eastern philosophers whose influences have been felt around the world. Since antiquity, Great thinkers and spiritual leaders, such as Gautama Buddha, Lao Tzu, and others have imparted meaningful insights on how to live a happy and fulfilled life from within. Read on to learn about the lives and lessons of 5 prominent Eastern philosophers worth exploring. The first quote is, "To attain knowledge, add things every day. To attain wisdom, remove things every day." That was a quote from Lao Tzu, also known as, I'm going to try to get these pronunciations right, as Lao Zi or Lao Tzu. There are different ways to pronounce these Chinese names, and I make no claim to speaking Chinese anywhere near adequately. But Lao Tzu was a Chinese philosopher believed to have lived between the 3rd and 6th centuries BCE. He is often credited with founding Taoism, a philosophy and religion whose core principles are detachment or inaction, letting things happen as they may, simplicity, and living in harmony with nature. Lao Tzu is thought to have been a contemporary and even a teacher of Confucius. According to Lao Tzu's teachings, the Tao is the way of the universe. Taoism teaches that all living creatures thrive when living in a state of harmony with the universe and its energy, its qi. To obtain this version of totality, Lao Tzu taught that we must let go of conventional societal concerns and instead find a rhythm with the Tao. The school of thought is still relevant to this day, and Taoism has been influential throughout centuries of Chinese culture, art, and religion. I'm just going to interject here that in my youth I was trained as a Taoist priest, and my master, my Taoist master, said that the Taoists themselves date Taoism back to more than 8,000 BC. The Emperor, Yellow Emperor's Classic is like from 8,000 BC, and it espouses the fundamental principles of Taoism. So, just saying. Another quote from Lao Tzu, "Knowing others is intelligence. Knowing yourself is true wisdom." And then we have another philosopher, often known as Chuang Tzu. And here's what Chuang Tzu has to say to us. Only after the Great Awakening will we realize that this is the great dream. Chuang Tzu was a Chinese philosopher in the 4th century BCE. His study and interpretation of Taoism is considered the most comprehensive and influential of the time. And his eponymous work, Chuang Tzu, that's named after him, is considered one of Taoism's definitive texts. The philosopher's beliefs can most simply be summed up in the modern phrase, "go with the flow." Building on Lao Tzu's belief of inaction, Chuang Tzu felt that humans' pursuit should never go against the universe's inherent procession. That things should be left to follow their own course. A truly virtuous person, he said, should be free from the limitations of circumstance, personal belongings, traditions, and ambitions. His teachings had a major influence on the development of Chinese Buddhism, as well as on centuries of Chinese art and literature. And Zen comes from Chinese Buddhism. Despite his image as a great and wise teacher, Chuang Tzu was also seen as an unpredictable and unkempt eccentric. Though with a good sense of humor about it all, when faced with his own death, Chuang Tzu did not believe that burying his body should be prioritized over leaving it out to let nature take its course. Above ground with the buzzards or below ground with the worms, he believed is all the same. Another quote from him: "To the most trivial actions attach the devotion and mindfulness of 100 monks. To matters of life and death, attach a sense of humor." And here's another pronunciation challenge for me. Chuzi. You'd think that would be easy, but it's spelled Z-H something something. Chuzi. And Chuzi was a 12th century philosopher, historian, politician, and poet who lived and made his mark during China's Song dynasty. He was devoted to investigating philosophical questions about humanity's relation to the larger universe, as well as how we can develop moral superiority. His work in these areas helped form what is known as Neo-Confucianism, a revival of Confucian thinking that took place between the 11th and 18th centuries. Because of this, his influence on Chinese intellectual life is generally considered second only to Confucius' influence. Chuzi philosophies prized sincerity, logic, and consistency. His pontifications about our place in the universe hinged on a combination of the formless, or the Li, the underlying order of nature, and the Qi, or the formed material energy of the world. Chuzi believed that the inherent Li was pure by default and was at risk of being corrupted by the impurities of Qi, or external forces. In his teachings, he emphasized the importance of deeply examining all things in order to perfect our knowledge. Through this process, he believed the human mind and the universe could together eliminate ethical imperfections. Another quote from him: "There is no fixed shape to the preservation of perfect balance. It depends on the circumstances of the moment." Another great philosopher we should know about, and maybe already do, the Dalai Lama, who said, if you want others to be happy, practice compassion. If you want to be happy, practice compassion. The Dalai Lama is the spiritual leader of Tibet and the leader of Tibetan Buddhism, a form of Buddhism that began in the 7th century of this CE. The current Dalai Lama, Tenzin Gyatso, is the 14th Dalai Lama. It is the religion's belief that each leader is a reincarnation of the first, who died in 1475. The current Dalai Lama was chosen when he was just 2 years old. The Dalai Lama's beliefs center on compassion, tolerance, peace, and contentment, and these tenets have been central to not only his teachings, but also his global legacy. The leader's nonviolent attempt at stopping the Chinese occupation of Tibet in 1959 resulted in a Nobel Peace Prize in 1989. The Nobel Committee noted his willingness to compromise and reconcile despite harsh conditions. To this day, the Dalai Lama travels around the world to promote peace and nonviolence. Another quote from him: "True change is within Leave the outside as it is. Sort of echoes Lao Tzu. Gautama Buddha, our final philosopher in this list of 5, said, conquer anger with love, evil with good, meanness with generosity, and lies with truth. Which sounds very much like our friend Peace Pilgrim. She must have read Buddha's writings. Ha ha. The Buddha, also commonly known by his birth name, Siddhartha Gautama, is the founder of Buddhism and one of the most important spiritual thinkers in history. Gautama was born near the border of Nepal and India, and though not much is known for certain about his life, which was sometime between the 6th century and 4th century BCE, there are many stories that contribute to his legend. It's believed he was raised in luxury and shielded from much of life's hardships until his late 20s. At this time, he witnessed the reality of human suffering and decided to live an ascetical life, to discover how to live in peace even among the world's pain. The Buddha developed and taught the 4 noble truths. The first is that life is full of suffering. The second noble truth is that suffering is caused by human desire. The third is that we have the power to free ourselves of desire and therefore suffering. And the fourth is the way to achieve this freedom. He went on to teach many his way, with the end goal of enlightenment, or the elimination of all ego. Buddha remains a celebrated figure for his re-examination of the rigidity and ritual of human life, and for inspiring people to seek higher levels of human consciousness. And another quote from him is, wisdom is born of meditation. Without meditation, wisdom is lost. In reading those little snippets about these 5 great spiritual philosophers, just mountains of additional things came up in me that I would have loved to share. But it gives an introduction a little bit. We should begin to understand somewhat the thought of these Eastern philosophers. We live in a time where it's so important that we build bridges. And part of building bridges is to understand how the other feels, how the other sees the world. And having been trained as a young man in my adolescence by Chinese Taoist mystics, I found that the Chinese, going all the way back to ancient times, thought of the world and viewed the world in radically different ways than I had been brought up. And it was a real challenge even in those flexible years in my youth where I was wide open. I think it would behoove us these days to humbly open our hearts and allow the ancient wisdom of all these Eastern philosophers, but especially in this case the Chinese philosophers, to sort of open the window a little bit for us to begin to understand more of the consciousness of the people of the Far East, the people of China in particular I'm mentioning right now, which is why I felt drawn to share these. But also the wisdom of the Dalai Lama and certainly the Buddha is huge. So I hope you benefited from that. You can find that article on the website inspiringquotes.com. So, okay, back to our questions. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, it's wonderful to hear from you also, Julio and Lisalat. Love you much. Julio continues, would you talk a little about what happens between one incarnation and the next? Well, that's a great mystery. Depends on the tradition we're talking about. Some spiritual traditions, like Orthodox Christianity, don't believe in reincarnation. So it's mostly what happens between the time you leave your body and when you journey through various levels of consciousness and experience to the light. Or in the case of Orthodox Christianity, the hell realms, which incidentally, Tibetan Buddhism and Hinduism, the Buddhists speak of the bardos and their lower bardos that are hell worlds. The Hindus speak of lokas, worlds or realities below this one. And depending on the density of the soul at the time of death, we may be drawn up to the light or partway to the light. Or we may be drawn down into denser realms that are even more problematic than Earth, the one we're living in now. So it's not, well, in Orthodox Christianity and in Catholicism, there's the idea, particularly Catholicism, of purgatory. That the soul, not every soul is ready to go right into the light, to be eternally with the divine in the light at the moment of death because of issues that have not been dealt with in this life. And there are various ways that could be taken care of. In the Catholic tradition, it's believed that on these alternative levels of reality, they would call it all just one word, purgatory, the soul goes through experiences that lead to the purgation or the purging of the remaining density, darkness, selfishness, and sin that still accompanies the soul after death. Hindus would have the soul stuck in some of these lokas for eons of time, working out some of these issues as they journey from one level of light to the next, to the next, to the next, shedding layers of density and self-centeredness. And very similar understanding of the Tibetan bardos. So, depending on the tradition, in the tradition that we studied quite a bit, which was a Hindu tradition in southern India, it was believed that the soul went on a 10-day journey toward the light. And during that time, went through all kinds of stuff. Realization and transformation, sort of going down the dark tunnel toward the light. They believed it took 10 days for that to happen. And at the end of that journey of 10 days, one would stand before the divine and have a complete life review, which is not that different than the way Christ and other Christian prophets sort of described the final judgment, coming before God and seeing our whole life unfold before us. And based on that life review, it would be decided at that time whether the soul was ready to fully go into the light, or whether it needed to reincarnate, to take another human form, another human life, to have more opportunities to work through these layers of karma in the soul. That's a very Hindu point of view. The Tibetans, it's not that different, except their journey is more like 40 days. And in each of the bardos, they face different challenges, different layers of human ignorance that could be confronted in the afterlife on the way toward the light. Along the way, 40 days, and then finally they would stand before the Lord of Death, and they would look their remaining fear square in the eyes. At that point, it would be determined whether they could embrace total reality and merge into nirvana, or whether they would need to reincarnate again in human form to work through some of these layers of human ignorance and karma that had not fully been brought to light.
It's interesting that they would put a certain amount of day limit on it, though, because my understanding is that when we're in spirit, there's no time or space or sense of that. So, actually, one day or 1 minute could feel like 1,000 years or 500 years, depending on the emotional turmoil we're going through, struggling to find a way out of that. And yeah, it's good to do our work here.
Jesus, in his teaching, spoke of the fires of hell, and said he spoke of that, the experience of being in hell, as being eternal. And so modern fundamental Christianity and a lot of Orthodox Christianity speaks about eternal damnation. I really don't like that because the word that they have translated from in the Greek, that Jesus actually spoke Aramaic, but in the Greek texts, the word that he chose wasn't eternal. It wasn't forever. He said, unto the eons of eons, which means it's a long, long time. The soul who finds themselves unwilling to deal with their own darkness and dying would experience the fire. Fire is not a permanent thing. Fire is transforming and purging, right? Anything that goes in the fire is transformed and purged, and fire doesn't last forever. He just said it's a long, long experience. And what Suzanne said, I think, is the reason why. In my first, what I would call enlightenment experience, I was 17 years old, and at 4 o'clock in the morning, time stopped. For what seemed to me to be eons. I mean, I experienced multiple lifetimes, hundreds and hundreds of years of experience. I didn't just remember these lives. I lived and experienced hundreds of years. I completely forgot about this lifetime in this place. In going through all these other lifetimes, and when it happened, when time stopped, I felt very strange. I had that experience again a number of times, but on this time, I just felt weird, and I grabbed onto the only thing I could hold on to as my pocket watch. It was really stupid. And I set it in front of me, and I looked at it, and the second hand reached 4 a.m. and stopped. And when it stopped, my spirit went straight up. And that's when I experienced hundreds of years of lifetimes and experiences. And much to my surprise, because I didn't even remember this life, I came back into this body and this life. And I was still gazing at the watch. And the second hand went 1 second past 4. All of that experience of hundreds, maybe thousands of years of lived experience happened in no time at all. No time. So I came to understand that at the time of death, our experience of time is really a misperception. It's something the brain does. It's always now, okay? The only time that exists is now. And everything, the past, the present, the future, everything is now. And when we reach the point of death, what's called physical death, time simply stops. We don't stop, but we stop moving forward in physical time. So whatever condition that we're in that moment seems forever. It isn't, because everything continues to evolve and grow and change. But in terms of moving along in this linear fashion in physical time on earth, at the moment of death, that just stops. And it's sort of like increasing the speed of consciousness to the speed of spiritual light. As you approach the speed of divine light, time slows down, just like in the physical universe. As you approach the speed of light, time slows down. Well, in the spiritual world, when you reach the speed of divine light, time just stops. And it has its parallel in the physical world with physical light.
I think too, it's a lot more for people that are still surviving, the loved ones that have passed. Like in India, they say 10 days, Tibet 40 days. There's different traditions and different time periods from how to handle the body, handle the loved one. And I know that when when people pass, we get prayer requests, and they'll give a certain period of time. Would you please pray intently for this loved one for the next 10 days or 12 days or however long they request? And I think that's important too. I think that prayers from our loved ones and those that are holding us in that space after we've passed have an impact. You know, the more we feel loved and supported, the easier it is to pass through these realms. So I wouldn't discount these traditions and the amount of time that they place on it, because we are actively engaged in praying for that soul's transition to a higher realm. And I'm looking at a sign I picked up at a thrift store a couple weeks ago. It says, prayer changes things. It's just a nice reminder on all levels. It changes things, whether it's here or in spirit or, yeah.
Catholics are urged to pray for the souls of their loved ones who are in purgatory, to help them go through those purging layers and moving toward the light. Which is interesting because nobody knows how long. The popular belief is they could be in purgatory for centuries. But again, there's no time. And so what if you're praying for someone, this question came up, who actually went through purgatory 10 years ago, and they're already in the light? And the answer that I think came from a priest was so interesting. Since there is no time in spirit, even though you're praying for them now, it's helping them back then.
Right.
So what if you missed the 10 days after death, if you believe that Hindu version? Go ahead and pray for the assistance of that soul, because their 10-day journey in our time is a timeless experience. And the 40 days of the Tibetans, or however you view it, we can pray now to assist someone suffering in the past.
Well, it's like why we did the ancestor liberation processes, and why we pray for our ancestors and for those that have gone before us, and ask for forgiveness, you know, seek their forgiveness and forgive them, and it frees them, which changes the energetic timeline, so to speak, and it affects the future generations beyond us. And prayer at any time is powerful. We just need to not be limited by our own human constructs of time and space.
So we love you too, Stacy. And Robert Reister says, love you too, and we love you too. And Robert also writes, my grandson is going to the Plato School at St. Alfred's for 5th grade.
Nice.
What a miracle. And on many levels, St. Alfred's Episcopal Church was founded in an orange grove by Rob's father and my dad's best friend, Father Robert Reister, an amazing priest who wanted to leave the Archdiocese of Chicago with all of its big churches and big congregations and come to an orange grove in Florida and build a little church that would never have more than a couple hundred people. It was doomed to grow bigger than that, but he did it. I mean, he and my dad was one of the leaders, as a lay leader in that congregation, and Rob and I grew up together in that church. So to see what St. Alfred's became,
Yeah.
and over the years, and for, you know, for Rob's grandson to be going to Plato School at St. Alfred's.
We have family members that went to Plato, and we were talking with her the other day. She's in high school now, and we were asking if she speaks Spanish, because they learn Spanish and Greek and English in the school. And she said, actually, I'm more fluent in Greek now than I am in Spanish. But very bright girl, and they really challenge multi-layers of your brain. So congratulations on that. It's a great program.
Julio writes, thank you so much for your marvelous comments. Well, you're very welcome. Thank you for your marvelous presence.
Yes.
Very sweet. Okay, well, it's time to dive in a little deeper, if there is deeper. Another layer. Close your eyes. Close your eyes, if you would, and invoke the presence. In your heart of hearts, where the fullness of the Godhead dwells within you. In the center of your being is the presence of God in all of its fullness, This God may not be what you heard about in Sunday school, because God is pure, unconditional love. There is no distance between you and God. The scriptures themselves say, in God we live, inside God we live and move and have our being. Nothing exists outside of God. There is no distance between you and the divine of pure love, who loves you unconditionally exactly as you are, and is all-powerful and all-wise and all-knowing exactly what you need and how to get it across to you. So right now, we invite you to open your heart and begin to drink in, breathe in, soak in the grace of divine light and life and love that's pouring out to you and pouring out within you. It will flood your heart with light. It will flood your soul with the clearing of negative thoughts and feelings and programming, and replace it with divinely inspired ideas. Fill your body with divine health. It will flood your body with healing grace and your relationships to transform them and set them in order and shine out from your heart through every layer of your life, spirit, soul, body, relationships, out into the world, to touch, to contage others with the grace of awakening. Just keep receiving. Breathe in the light. And don't stop. Take in more and more and more. It never runs out. The more you take in, the more there is to receive. Carrying the weight of a departed loved one, release them into the hands of God. No one ever dies. Release them into the hands of God. Pure love, pure mercy. Imagine us all in a circle with our eyes closed, Lift up your hands, open your palms facing forward. See the planet Earth. Visualize an image of the Earth in the center of our circle, the beautiful, living, blue, translucent planet. Alive, filled with life. And let us ask the divine to pour through us healing grace for the earth itself, for the oceans, for the lands, for the skies, for all the beings living on this beautiful planet, especially for the 8 billion humans. Let us ask the divine to melt away the fires of anger and hatred and violence from the hearts of all humans covering the face of the earth, and flood their hearts with peace and love. See the planet and all humans on it bathed in the golden white light of the divine presence. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace. Now you can rest your hands in your lap somewhere and open your eyes and begin to make direct eye contact with Suzanne and or me as we begin the light meditation. In this meditation, Suzanne and I are flooded with oceans of love and light and grace, and it pours through us, through every part of our being to you, especially through our eyes. So just keep gazing at least one of our eyes and receive, and the light streams, whether you can see it, out through our eyes, in through your eyes, into your spiritual heart of hearts, causing the light of awakening and the fires of divine love to burn brighter and brighter and brighter within you. Just receive and allow. Close your eyes now. Meditate with us for a few more minutes as the grace settles within. Keep meditating as long as you like, or find a place nearby to lie in Shavasana. That's a yoga pose, the easiest of all. You lie on your back comfortably, with your eyes closed, your arms loosely at your sides with your palms open, turned upward, and just let yourself dissolve with gratitude in the presence. We love you so much.
Much love, light, and blessings.
Until we meet again, know that the divine in us beholds the divine in you, and we bow to you.